Last month, I competed in my third two-gun match. The Marauders multi-gun match was put on at 17 South Rod and Gun Club in support of the Sua Sponte Foundation. If you don't know what the Sua Sponte Foundation is, they exist to support members of the 1st Ranger Battalion and their families, specifically in times of loss and crisis, and 100% of the proceeds from this match went directly to the foundation. In this video, I'm going to go over every little piece of gear that I brought to this match and what or if I would change anything. I'm going to talk about everything from the firearms and accessories all the way down to the clothes that I chose for this match. So don't forget to use the time cards in the video timeline below to skip past the things that you may find a little bit less interesting. But before I get too deep into this video, I think that it's important to share some disclosures with you guys. Both of these guns that I used at the match were of no monetary cost to me. However, I hand selected both of them for specific reasons, which we'll get into later in this video. This video is not sponsored, nor am I being paid to say anything that I'm saying, and as always, my opinions are my own. So here we have a Daniel Defense DD-M4 V7 SLW. The only internal parts that I changed were the trigger and the safety lever. I had the mil-spec trigger that came in this gun swapped out for a Schmid 2-stage trigger. Clearly, I know a lot about the trigger that I chose. It was just in our spare parts bin, and it works just fine. I like it a little bit better. And I had the right side of the ambi safety swapped out for the Schmid lever. The trigger is a big improvement, and the shorter lever on the right side of the gun doesn't bump into my trigger finger, which I very much prefer. The rifle worked great the entire match, which I feel like is especially saying something because both my husband and I were sharing it for the entire match. More specifically, we didn't have any issues with overheating or anything like that. We used PMC X-Tac ammo and Duramag magazines for the entire match without issue, of course. Here I have an Eotech G33 3X magnifier. I only used this magnifier on 2 stages, but it was pretty sneaking crucial on both of those stages. One stage was very small targets out at 100 yards, and the other was targets out to 400 yards. So for the vast majority of the match, I was just running the magnifier off to the side here. I actually switched it right in the middle of one of the stages, and then for those 2 stages, I just was able to boop it so it works with this, which this is the Sig Romeo 4T Pro red dot. I just preferred that because it's something that is small, lightweight, it's something that's intuitive. I know how to use a red dot. You can also change the reticle from just a simple dot to other varieties and things. It does have a 3-drop dot reticle that kind of sits under the main dot, and I did try to use that for the out to 400 yard stage, but it's not something that I've really spent a lot of time with, and I didn't get the opportunity to spend a lot of time with it before the match, so I don't know that I really got to get the full use out of that feature, but I know that it's something that I could get more use out of. It's also worth mentioning what I did not bring, which was the VORTEX Razor Gen 2 1-6 scope. There's a few different reasons for this. First, I'm used to using red dots. They're really intuitive for me, and a red dot on a rifle works exactly the same as a red dot on a pistol. And then second, the red dot and magnifier is less than half of the weight of the Razor and its mount, which my entire rifle setup without the optic weighed less than 6 pounds. So adding 2 pounds of just optic didn't really make sense, at least not for me at this time. I felt that having something that was that heavy was not really going to be, the juice was not worth the squeeze. There was a learning curve involved, and then also just the prolonged exhaustion of having to shoot that extra weight for 8 whole stages. So I decided to go with maybe something that some would consider suboptimal for something going all the way out to 400 yards, but it worked okay especially for the skill level that I'm at right now. However, I do really want to explore scopes in the future, but the VORTEX 1-6 didn't really give me enough performance to make the weight and the unfamiliarity worth it. And then here I have a Lunar Concepts Hot Pocket and Magpul rail covers. It was so hot at this match, and if you've ever shot an AR from more than a few magazines, they can get really hot just on their own, let alone in addition to the Georgia heat and humidity. So the Magpul rail covers paired with the Hot Pocket stayed cool enough to hold in the Georgia heat. Even with my husband and I sharing the rifle throughout the match, I did bring a support hand glove just in case, but I never ended up actually needing to use it. On this rifle, I also have a Magpul SL grip. I've used the Magpul grip before on another rifle. I had it for a different build, and I don't really have much to say about it besides the fact that I picked it out and I like it. This is also a Magpul SL stock, and it's a stock and I like it. It works. The standard Daniel Defense stock has kind of like a rubbery texture up here on the cheek piece, and I just find that it can be a little bit uncomfortable, and this was something that was really easy for us to pick up. So it also matches, and I would be lying if I said that that did not make me happy. You might notice that I do not have a sling on this gun. I used a sling at this match last year, and I found that it really kind of got in the way. I didn't use a sling for this match because we had to dump the rifle on most of the stages, if not all of, no, not all of them, but most of them. And in that type of environment, the sling just kind of ends up getting in the way. However, it would have been nice when we were walking from stage to stage. When I do use a sling, and I do have a sling for this, I use the Faro Concepts Slingster. And again, I don't really have much to say about it other than it's lightweight, it's easy to use, and I appreciate the aesthetics. Next, let's chat about the pistol that I was using for this match and its associated accessories. This is the Walther PDP in steel frame. This is the 4.5 inch. I've loved the PDP in steel frame so far. It is a noticeable upgrade from my Q5 steel frame. From a practical shooting perspective, it recoils better, the magazines are better, I like the grip texture a lot. The Q5 is a really great gun, reliable, good gun, but I really have liked this PDP a lot more. However, I absolutely had to change a couple of things to make this work because I had very big trigger reach issues. When I would try to pull the trigger, I could not reach the trigger safety, so the trigger actually wouldn't pull. I would essentially pin the trigger safety to the side, which I basically can't do that at this point because I have made some noticeable changes. So the first thing I did to try to fix the trigger reach issue was to swap out the grips. Locke provided me with these grips and they're awesome. They fit my small hands way better and the texture is a really big improvement from the factory grips. My hands were completely sweaty at the match. I mean, it's Georgia humidity, but I never felt like the pistol was slipping or anything like that. However, the grips alone were not enough to fix my trigger reach issues. But I was able to have this trigger swapped over from my Q5 to my PDP. This is an Overwatch precision trigger. The grips and the trigger combo did fix my trigger reach problem, and I'm looking forward to actually getting to shoot it quite a bit more in this configuration. This mag extension is made by Henning Group. I like it because it's really easy to install and remove. Unfortunately though, I bought multiple, but I only had one installed because I couldn't find my extra magazine springs. But this one that I had worked really great. Next, I will do a quick little belt overview. You guys have, if you've watched my like USPSA video from a couple months back, then you already know what belt I'm using. This is a double alpha Lynx USPSA belt, but I did replace one of these pistol mags. I've already swapped it back with a Henry Holsters rifle mag pouch. This worked really well for me and I still really like this Lynx belt. And then I was still using, gosh, I'm forgetting the brand name of this. I'll put it on the screen. I had this in my initial like belt overview. This belt is not designed to be an inner belt, but I need something with cushion, and I was able to get this in like a large or something, and it works pretty well for an inner belt. Not ideal, but better than anything else that I've been able to find. I did try to use my old Blue Alpha battle belt, but it really wasn't a good fit for this application. There isn't enough Velcro contact, and the Cobra buckle is large enough that it just takes up too much space, specifically on my petite frame. My husband used his Blue Alpha battle belt, worked great for him in his use case, but for whatever reason, I just don't get enough Velcro contact, and it's just not sturdy or stable enough. I did get a belt specifically for this match because I knew I needed something that I could move around with. So this holster is something that I bought from US Duty Gear because Safariland does not make a holster for the PDP, but of course I needed something that would retain this chonky pistol while I was sprinting to and fro. But unfortunately, the one that I got does not fit the SRO. I was able to have my husband modify it so that it would work, but I wasn't super impressed by US Duty Gear as a whole. They were kind of difficult to get in touch with concerning all of these compatibility issues and things. However, if you're in need of a active retention holster, I would recommend going with Safariland if they make a holster for your gun, but if you're shooting a less common gun like me, US Duty Gear is an okay option. I put my holster on, you probably can't see it very well, but I put my holster on a Henry Holsters turbo drop hanger that I bought, but it didn't really work well for me. The hanger hit my leg and was pretty uncomfortable. I will say that this will really depend on your belt, holster, and body type. My husband has used one of these for years on his competition belt and he absolutely loves it. And of course, Henry Holsters rock, so definitely don't be afraid to give it a try. Next, I'll quickly go over the clothes that I wore at this match because the weather and climate called for very specific choices to be made. And honestly, this is actually a topic that I'd like to cover in more detail in its own separate video at some point. Many of us are attending matches, classes, and even outdoor shooting conferences throughout the year, and we may not have the background that helps us select the right clothing or fabric types in order to stay cool, warm, or even dry. So let me know down in the comments if that is a topic that you would find interesting or not. Almost everything that I wore at this match was from Ridge Merino. Some of it I bought and some of it was given to me to try out. As usual, I loved having lightweight merino in the heat. I personally very much prefer it to synthetics. I will say though that some of Ridge's newer items seem to be woven a little bit differently because the new sun shirt I wore seemed to be a little bit less durable than my older one. All in all though, everything worked really well. And I finally found pants that I like. This may sound silly, but it has been so hard for someone my size to find decent outdoor pants, specifically with belt loops and also pockets. And no, please don't say leggings. Leggings are not pants, and it's just not the same. The pants that I ended up wearing are cool Horizon pants, and they absolutely rock. They are lightweight, they fit great, have great pockets and belt loops, and they seem to be a really durable material. However, they have been discontinued, of course. I did recently pick up these Saucony Peregrine, I think it's Peregrine 13s, and they have been absolutely great. They have pretty much the same exact tread that the Solomons do, and my feet and legs don't actually hurt after a long day. And the other plus is that I only paid $70 for them on Amazon, so they were also way cheaper than Solomon's, and the colors are more fun, so you really can't go wrong. And finally, food and hydration for the match. We recently started keeping Element around the house, and honestly, it has been a complete lifesaver just in the day-to-day of living in the desert, but also at matches like this. If you live somewhere hot and have to be outside, Element does a really good job of replenishing all of the salt that you sweat out while still tasting good. They also don't have a bunch of sugar and corn syrup like Gatorade, which is an absolute win. We get it on Amazon and I highly recommend it going into the summer, especially at matches. And then chops are another really good clean snack that kept me going at the Marauder match. Sometimes it's hard to get calories in at a match while you're just doing all of the things, especially when you have to travel to the match, like you're flying there. You can't necessarily like pack a lunch or something. Having chops on hand were really handy for both my husband and I. And I think that just about covers everything that I brought and used at this match. Thanks for watching this video. Please keep an eye out for next week's video where I will actually be going over each individual stage, exactly how this match went, how I placed, what I learned, and ultimately how it has kind of impacted my training goals going forward.